Hello, it's Dispeller with Chapter 4 in the Boundaries book. This is called How Boundaries Are Developed. We've been talking a little bit about what boundaries kind of look like and what it's like to not have boundaries. Now we're going to be talking about how to actually create them. As always, if you have not yet, please do subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, hit the share button, and ring the little bell so you don't miss future uploads, such as the one I am about to upload shortly. Jim had never been able to say no to anyone, especially his supervisors at work. He'd moved up to the position of operations manager in a law firm. His dependability had earned him the reputation of Mr. Can-Do. But his kids had another name for him, the Phantom. Jim was never home. Being Mr. Can-Do meant late nights at the office. It meant business dinners several nights a week. It meant weekends on the road, even after he'd promised the kids fishing trips and trips to the zoo. Jim didn't like being absent so much, but he had justified it to himself, saying, "This is my contribution to the kids, my way of giving them the good life." His wife, Alice, had rationalized the dadless dinners by telling the children and herself, "This is Dad's way of telling us he loves us," and she almost believed it. Finally, however, Alice had had enough. One night, she sat Jim down on the couch in the family room and said, "I feel like a single parent, Jim. I missed you for a while, but now all I feel is nothing." Jim avoided her eyes. "Honey, I know," he replied. "I'd really like to say no to people more, but it's just so hard to—" "I found someone you can say no to," Alice broke in. "Me and the kids." That did it. Something broke deep within Jim. A sense of pain, of guilt, of shame, of helplessness and rage. The words tumbled out of his mouth. "Do you think I like being like this? Always giving in to others? Do you think I enjoy letting my family down?" Jim paused, struggling for composure. "All my life it's been this way, Alice. I've always feared letting people down. I hate this part of me. I hate my life. How did I get like this? I didn't even realize I was on live. I must have forgotten to put it in private. Oh well." How did Jim get like this? He loved his family. The last thing he wanted was to neglect his most precious relationships, his wife and children. Jim's problems didn't start the day he was married. They developed during his early significant relationships. They were already a part of his character structure. How do boundary abilities develop? That's the purpose of this chapter. We hope you'll be able to gain some understanding of where your own boundaries started crumbling or became set in concrete, and how to repair them. As you read this section, remember David's prayer to God about his life and development. "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." God's desire is for you to know where your injuries and deficits are, whether self-induced or others-induced. Ask him to shed light on the significant relationships and forces that have contributed to your own boundary struggles. The past is your ally in repairing your present and ensuring a better future. Hold on a second, guys. I'm going to see if I can do something here. Yep, I sure can. Perfect. Okay. I didn't mean to go live on that. I was trying to do an upload, so it is now going to be an upload. Remember the old saying, insanity is genetic? You inherit it from your kids? Well, boundaries aren't inherited, they are built. To be the truth-telling, responsible, free, and loving people God wants us to be, we need to learn limits from childhood on. Or maybe that didn't work. Boundary development is an ongoing process, yet its most crucial stages are in our very early years where our character is formed. What, honey?
So I'm guessing it didn't.
No. The scriptures advise parents to train a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not turn from it or depart from it. Proverbs 22:6. Many parents misunderstand this passage. They think the way he should go means the way we, the parents, think he should go. Can you see the boundary conflicts already beginning? The verse actually means the way God has planned for him or her to go. In other words, good parenting isn't emotionally bludgeoning the child into some clone or ideal of the perfect child. It's being a partner in helping young ones discover what God intended for them to be and helping them reach that goal. The Bible teaches that we pass through life in stages. John writes to little children, young men, and fathers. Each group has distinct tasks to perform. Boundaries also develop in specific, distinct phases that you can perceive. In fact, by noting infants and children in their early parental interactions, child development professionals have been able to record the specific phases of boundary development. This is important because a lot of people do not understand that there are boundaries that are supposed to be formed in childhood. And as you raise your children, it's supposed to change as they get older. It's not you have this cute little baby and you get to do whatever you want with them. And then they become a cute little kid and you can micromanage their life. Then they become an adolescent or a teenager and you tell them what to do all the time and you make them do what you want them to do. No, they're not there for that. You birthed them, yes, but your job pretty much ends when they start thinking for themselves. I mean, yes, you got to guide them, of course, but they're supposed to individuate from you. They're not supposed to be attached to you the rest of your life. You're not supposed to have to put them through college and pay for them if they get in trouble. No, none of that is supposed to be your responsibility. You're supposed to train them up so that when they're older, they can stand on their own. You're raising children to be adults, and you got to look at it that way, even when they're little. I mean, don't put pressures on them like you would an adult or a young adult when they're like 3 or 4 years old, talking about as they get older. Anyway, if it seems a little bit odd because I came on here and I was like laughing, it's because I meant for this to be a private video, like an upload, because I usually just like go live, but then I put it in private until I upload it. Yeah, well, that didn't work. So then I tried to do it again once I was already on here, and that didn't work. So apparently I'm meant to be here and be live. So if you come in and you hear me reading, that's why it is the way it is. So whatever. Bonding, but you can feel free to chat anyway if you want or not. The foundation of boundary building. Wendy couldn't understand it. Something wasn't gelling. All those codependency books, all those assertiveness tapes, all that self-talk about being more confrontive. And yet every time she talked to her mother on the phone, all the advice, all the self-help techniques melted away into vague, cloudy memories. A typical conversation about Wendy's children would always include or conclude with her mom's analysis of Wendy's imperfect parenting style. I've been a mother longer than you, Mom would say. Just do it my way. Wendy resented her advice. It wasn't that she wasn't open to guidance. Lord knows she could use it. It was just that her mom thought her way was the only way. Wendy wanted a new relationship with her mom. She wanted to be honest about her mom's control, her polite put-downs, and her inflexibility. Wendy wanted an adult-to-adult friendship with her mom. But the words wouldn't pass her lips. She'd write letters explaining her feelings. She'd rehearse before telephoning. Yet when the time came, she panicked and remained silent. She well knew how to be compliant, appreciative, and childlike with her mom. It was only later, when she became angry, that she knew she'd been taken to task again. She was beginning to give up hope that things would ever change. Wendy's struggle illustrates a basic need that we all have in boundary building. No matter how much you talk to yourself, read, study, or practice, you can't develop or set boundaries apart from supportive relationships with God and others. Don't even try to start setting limits until you have entered into deep, abiding attachments with people who will love you no matter what. Our deepest need is to belong, to be in a relationship, to have a spiritual and emotional home. The very nature of God is to be in a relationship. God is love, says 1 John 4:16. Love means relationship, the caring, committed connection of one individual to another. Like God, our most central need is to be connected. When God said that even in his perfect new universe, it wasn't good for the man to be alone, Genesis 2:18, he wasn't talking about marriage. He was talking about relationship. Other people outside ourselves to bond with, trust, and go to for support. We are built for relationship. Attachment is the foundation of the soul's existence. When this foundation is cracked or faulty, boundaries become impossible to develop. Why? Because when we lack relationship, we have nowhere to go in a conflict. When we're not secure that we're loved, we are forced to choose between two bad options. One, we set limits and risk losing a relationship. This was Wendy's fear. She was afraid her mother would reject her and she would be isolated and alone. She still needed mom's connection to feel secure. Number two, we don't set limits and remain a prisoner to the wishes of another. By not setting limits on her mom, Wendy was a prisoner to her mom's wishes. So the first developmental task of infants is to bond with their mom and dad. They need to learn that they're welcome and safe in the world. To bond with the baby, mom and dad need to provide a consistent, warm, loving, and predictable emotional environment for him or her. During this stage, mom's job is to woo the child into entering a relationship with the world via attachment with her. Most often, this is mom's job, but dad or a caregiver can do this as well. Bonding takes place when the mother responds to the needs of the child, the needs for closeness, for being held, for food, for changing. As baby experiences needs, the mother's positive response to those needs, he or she begins to internalize or take in an emotional picture of a loving, constant mother. Babies at this stage have no sense of self apart from mother. They think mommy and me are the same. It's sometimes called symbiosis, or a sort of swimming in closeness with mother. This symbiotic union is the reason babies panic when mother isn't around. No one can comfort them but their mother. The emotional picture developed by infants forms from thousands of experiences in the first few months of life. The ultimate goal of mother's being there is a state called emotional object constancy, which you guys have heard me talk about object constancy before. I've told you that when I was diagnosed with borderline personality not otherwise specified, it was because of a deficit in my ability to have that object constancy, which basically meant I clung to people for dear life. And if they left, like even if you were on the phone with me and you said, I got to go, I wouldn't let you go. I'd be, wait, just one more thing. And I'd keep you on the phone because in my mind, with somebody that has an object constancy problem, if I let you go, if I say goodbye, you disappear forever. That's literally how a borderline perceives object constancy issues. That's what happens with them. I don't have that problem anymore. Thank God I'm past that. But yes, years ago, I would cling to every relationship I had. I could not say goodbye. I hated hanging up on the phone. I didn't like leaving people to go home or anything like that because it meant to me that they ceased to exist. And I was afraid I would forget what they looked like, what they sounded like, and I would be totally alone. That's how borderline object constancy works. Object constancy refers to the child's having an internal sense of belonging and safety, even away from the presence of the mother. All those experiences of constant loving payoff in a child's inner sense of security. It's been built in. Object constancy is referred to in the Bible as being rooted and established in love, Ephesians 3:17, and as having been rooted and built up in Christ, Colossians 2:7. It illustrates the principle that God's plan for us is to be loved enough by him and others to not feel isolated, even when we're alone. Bonding is the prelude. As children learn to feel safe at home with their primary relationships, they're building good foundations to withstand the separateness and conflict that comes with boundary development. I'm going to kind of keep these short, just like as if I was doing uploads, because it's just easier for people's attention span to keep shorter versions of things. And to be able to sit down and go through it and then be done with it and go on to the next one. So I'm just going to finish this one paragraph and I'm going to end this and I'm going to start my next video on a different video. Preferably a private video so I can do an upload like I meant to do. Okay. Separation and individuation, the construction of a soul. It's like a switch was thrown, said Millie to the friends who made up her church's moms group. The moms group provided activities and a place to talk for mothers of infants and toddlers. On her first birthday to the very day, my Hillary became the most difficult child I've ever seen. This is the same baby who the day before had eaten her spinach like it was her last meal. The next day, though, it all ended up on the floor. Millie's exasperation was met with approving nods and smiles. The mothers all agreed. Their babies had seemed to switch personalities around the same time. Gone were the agreeable, lovable infants. In their places were cranky, demanding toddlers. What had happened? Any competent pediatrician or child therapist will attest to a shift that begins during the first year of life and continues until about 3 years. A shift which, though sometimes disruptive and chaotic, is completely normal and part of God's plan for the child. As infants gain a sense of internal safety and attachment, a second need arises. The baby's need for autonomy or independence starts to emerge. Child experts call this separation and individuation. Separation refers to the child's need to perceive him or herself as distinct from mother, a not me experience. Individuation describes the identity the child develops while separating from mother. It's a me experience. You can't have me until you first have a not me. It's like trying to build a house on a plot of land filled with trees and wild brush. You must first cut away some space, then begin building your own home. You must first determine who you aren't before you discover the true, authentic aspects of your God-given identity. The only recorded instance of Jesus' boyhood describes this principle. Remember when Jesus' mother and father left Jerusalem without him? When they went back and found him teaching in the temple, his mother admonished him. Jesus' words to his mother were, "Why were you searching for me? Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house?" Translation: I have values, thoughts, and opinions that are different from yours, mother. Jesus knew who he was not, as well as who he was. The separation individuation process isn't a smooth transition into a person. 3 phases are critical to developing healthy boundaries in childhood: hatching, practicing, and rapprochement. We're going to talk about that on the next video. So I thank you for watching, and I will be uploading these systematically as I have been doing, one after the other, as the interest shows up for each video is how I'm determining when exactly I upload them. So y'all have a great day, be blessed, and shalom.